Today's review is sponsored by Surprise Adoption Services. It's not kidnapping, it's just an adoption without the paperwork.
Watch it, Alan, I'm shooting.
I Drink Your Blood. Not a vampire movie.
Let it be known, sons and daughters, that Satan was an acid head. Drink from his cup. Pledge yourselves. And together we'll all freak out.
So today we've got a movie about hippies hocked up on LSD, getting rabies, and going on a killing spree. That's all I should have to say. Before we get into the movie, I'd like to get into a little history, so brace yourself. Something I've always been fascinated by is how an event in history can not only have an effect on the culture, but have a big effect on movies. That makes sense. Art is a way that people cope with life. You see it all the time. In 1954, about 10 years after the nuclear bomb was dropped on Japan, that country made Godzilla, which was an allegory for that tragedy. Meanwhile, in America, people were afraid of communism, so a lot of movies were made based on that fear. In 1957, Ed Gein was arrested, and in 1960, Alfred Hitchcock made Psycho. And in 1969, there was the Manson family murders. This tragic event had a huge impact on film, and one of the first movies was I Drink Your Blood. The film opens up with a ritual being performed by a bunch of hippie Satanists.
To the glory of the mighty one in hell, I will devote myself.
To the glory of the mighty one in hell, I will devote myself.
Sons and daughters of Sados. Right away we're given a lot of nudity, both male and female, so there's something for everybody. The over-the-top acting and the fleshy view gives us a taste for what we're in for. A good old sleazy time. During the ritual, we're introduced to Sylvia. She's befriended one of the members of the group, which does not sit well with their leader Horace Bones.
Horace, it's okay. She's with me. She's a local kid. She's from around here.
You invited her here?
Yeah.
How many times have I got to say it? No strangers on the scene.
Sylvia is then assaulted and brutally beaten, which happens off camera. The next morning, she's discovered all banged up by her little brother Pete and their grandfather Dr. Banner. No, not that one. Her grandfather then attempts to get revenge on the hippie group, which doesn't go well. They beat him up and force him to take LSD.
Have a breath freshener, Hanson. Makes you stay sweet for hours.
The beating of both his sister and his grandpa enrages Pete, so he comes up with this rather elaborate revenge scheme. He takes the blood from a rabid dog, injects it into some meat pies, and then feeds said pies to the hippies. And it goes off the rails from there in the best possible way. The hippies turn rabid, go on a killing spree, and start spreading this disease throughout this small town.
No!
I Drink Your Blood is low-budget exploitation filmmaking at its finest. It has all the trademarks you expect from movies like this. Cheesy, over-the-top acting, low-budget gore, and a rather crazy plot. When looking at the trailer or clips from this movie, most people would think it belongs in the so bad it's good category. I can't bring myself to say that I Drink Your Blood is a so bad it's good movie. Yeah, it has that low-quality acting and that cheapness, but everyone's putting in legitimate effort.
To the glory of the mighty one in hell, I will devote myself.
I will worship him.
I will worship him.
I will suffer for him.
I will suffer for him.
You do start out laughing at the movie, but soon you find yourself invested in the story. It is cheap, but it's a good cheap. I think I Drink Your Blood is a legitimately good movie. No budget, yes, but still well done.
For God's sake, open the door!
I've mentioned before how I can't stand when a movie doesn't take advantage of its idea. You can tell that the filmmakers came up with the premise, and that's all they had. Luckily, I Drink Your Blood takes full advantage of its idea. You have this small town with a population of 40...
Population 40?
Being invaded by this gang of Satanist hippies, and then being overrun by bloodthirsty rabid people. It has elements of a zombie movie and a killer gang movie. It does take a while to get to the rabies, but we're still having a good time because of the hippies. This is a movie where the bad guys steal the whole show. They're such fun villains.
I am the firstborn son of Satan. Therefore, Satan is a black man. He commands my thoughts. And I conjure you in his name to obey me.
It's a mix of the over-the-top acting and the fact that we can tell that the actors are having a good time. We're kept entertained while we're waiting for the rabies to come into play. I do like the protagonists in this flick. They're pretty standard for a horror movie of this nature, but they do manage to stand out. You do care about them, and you don't want to see anything bad happen to them. The little boy Pete stands out amongst all of them. I both like and hate this kid. On the one hand, it's all his fault this is happening. He's the one who gave the rabies pies to the hippies. But you get his motivation. He wants to get revenge on this group because they beat up his sister and his grandpa. The reason this rabies plan makes sense is because his grandfather is a veterinarian, and Pete wants to be a vet when he grows up. He just so happens to come across the rabid dog when he's on his way to shoot the hippies, and the story goes on from there. That's another thing I like about this kid. He's not just some helpless character who constantly has to be rescued because he's fucking useless and he's just there to be annoying. He's proactive. Not only does he get revenge against these Satanist hippies, he also stands up to them when they're tormenting his grandfather. That's something you don't see a lot in horror movies. A lot of times kids are just there to be in the way and they're kind of annoying. But enough of that, you want to hear about rabid Satanist hippies hocked up on LSD going around killing people. It has everything you want from the title. Foaming mouths, crazy eyes, and oodles of low-budget violence. Yes, the bloodshed in I Drink Your Blood is cheap, but it's on the same level as the gore in 2000 Maniacs, and I fucking love that movie. The cheapness works. It gives the movie that low-budget charm I praise so much. When people get rabid, the music gets a little more chaotic, which adds to the entertainment. I have to give this movie props for how it handles rabies. True, everything is exaggerated, but it does get some facts right. In the movie, they mention how animals with rabies develop a fear of water. Originally, I thought that was just something added to the movie for the sake of the plot, but then I found out there is some truth to that. It is taken to an extreme in I Drink Your Blood, but I have to say, good on you, movie, for using facts in your story. The violence is pretty tame by today's standards, but for 1970, it was pretty graphic for its time. This came out after Night of the Living Dead, but it came out the year before Bay of Blood. This was another movie that was taking violence up a notch. The film was given an X rating for violence, and I'm guessing that was mainly because of a scene involving a pregnant woman. I won't say what happens here, but it's a pregnant woman. Things never go well for them in these kinds of movies. Funny thing is, I used to think I Drink Your Blood wasn't the best movie for people just getting into exploitation cinema. I love the flick, but I thought it was better for people just getting into the grindhouse to check out some other movies in the genre first, before getting into this one. That opinion has since changed, mainly because I showed this movie to a friend who wasn't really into exploitation cinema, and she really enjoyed it, which made me think, maybe this is a good movie for new Grindhouse fans. I say it's worth checking out. But for now, it's time for the Grindhouse rankings. We've got a body count of about 24, unless you watch the director's cut, then it's bumped up to 25. The kills consist of, but are not limited to, stabbings, gunshots, decapitations, and being burned alive. There's a lot of nudity in this flick, both male and female. You want tits, you want ass, you want dong, it's all here. The villains steal the whole show. They get especially entertaining when they go rabid and crazy. The protagonists aren't the most three-dimensional characters, but they do work as people to care about while all this rabies chaos is happening. The kid Pete stands out amongst the good guys. I like how he's not there to just be helpless. He actually gets proactive. The violence is cheap but good. The death scenes are still able to stand out despite the low budget. I love how this movie takes advantage of its crazy premise, and it has a good pace. You sit down to watch, and before you know it, the movie's ending. I'm giving this a 4.6 out of 5. It's a good, bloody, sleazy time, and a fun flick for newcomers to exploitation movies. Highly recommended. As always, I want to thank everybody for watching and supporting my channel. If you're new here, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you like what I do here, or give it a thumbs down if you don't like what I do here. Leave a comment down below. What are some of your favorite group-based horror movies? I mean the ones that have more than 2 killers. This is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die. Don't worry, it's just 24-hour rabies.